So there was people from all walks of life there, and they were all absolutely benevolent. Like I said, up to that point where things got hairy, and I don't know why that necessarily was. I think a lot of it had to do with the radiation affecting people in an inorganic manner. So there was a time when I had this guy call me, Mr. Elliot Bartley, ID Charlie Victor 22, and he claimed to be a part of the police negotiations team, and that I could contact him at any time on a 09 number, which was interesting because I'm not going to negotiate with any of you. There's no negotiation with you. You know, the police are not who anyone was willing to negotiate with, nor negotiate at all. You know, it was a matter of demands on behalf of the people. That's not a negotiation. So this guy rings me up and goes, "Oh, I'm just trying to make sure everyone's safe," all of that blah blah. Just trying to probe information. I find out that other people of different groups that had come down there had also been getting contacted by different negotiations teams, peoples. So that hit the forefront of my mind, and I was just assessing everything as it went down. I had a photo come in of a SAS guy. He was walking down the street with a briefcase. I don't know if that's connected necessarily, but it wouldn't surprise me if that had help, because looking at that last push that they did, that was well planned, and we all fell into that. Unfortunately, I did see what was happening, but none of y'all listened to me. I know it was hysterical, but in those moments you need to stay on task and focused. So there was that. There was quite a few things. Just trying to have them come to mind. I'm gonna cut that. You can cut. So I want to go right back to day 3, and I'm standing in that line, and I'd been standing in the line for a couple of hours, and I remember a man walked up to me with a oilskin hat on, and he just comes up to me. He said, "Oh, I just wanted to thank you for your service, and I wanted to let you know that I'm with 100 Defence Force members across the road that really appreciate you being here and representing them." That really moved me. Very grateful for you all. Bless you, love you, honour you, and respect you. And, you know, stay on your moral ground. You did the right thing then, and I'm sure you're doing the right thing now.
Do you think the government's worried that in New Zealand there's potential that there could be a coup in the army, or is that just not possible now?
I don't really want to comment on that, to be honest.
True.
Yeah, no, that's not a talking point for me, sorry. So I started having footage come in of Trent from camp coming. They had logistics specialists that were working with Lav 6s with the crane on it, and they, from what I understand, the soldiers on the ground didn't want to actually participate in that. So they ended up canning it. One, because it was going to damage the vehicles, because when you extract a vehicle with a crane off a Lav 6, it instantly smashes onto the front of the Lav and it damages it. So they didn't want to actually damage anyone's property because they knew the bounds, even though they stretched the bounds. And so that got canned. But they were training for that, which I thought was interesting. You're going to use your military, you're going to use New Zealand's military, not your military, Prime Minister. You're going to use our military, the people's military, to remove the people. It's unfathomable.
But the Labour Party's saints, man. Don't you know that?
Yeah, well, we all know there was head of parliament was a leftist poster child. I mean, when you study PR, you know.
And a protester from a 1981 Springbok tour. Did you know that?
I did.
Yeah.
Yep. I believe there's a photo of, we won't get too hard into this, but I believe there's a photo of her and Grant Robertson sitting down in the Young Socialist Party or Communist Party, and they're not too far away from one another, socialism and communism, not really. You know, one leads to the other. But anyway, I digress. So I remember when I got back off the floor of Flutie's apartment building hotel, And I remember looking out at all the men and women that were standing out the front, the police I'm referring to. I remember looking out at them and just thinking, man, there's so many of you that are joined for the right reasons, and it just reminded me of when I joined the military and why I joined for the right reasons. And it started coming to my forefront of my mind that I needed to address them and know that everything was all good and that they were more than welcome to come over and assist. So what I wrote was I wrote them this: I do not want nor need to distrust or disown our constabulary. They should be invited to be the honorary guard of our people's mana, taking care to matters of constabulary law and the people's justice, to get offside with the men and women who have had their own aroha for the people misused, should most certainly be invited to join a far better informed constabulary of people primarily courageous to defend the nation's people's tamariki and whānau. And so I wrote that, and that was for them, because, you know, a lot of us have we put our faith in our constabulary, and they're being misused. You know, it's like a lot of jobs, you know, when you sign up for something and you're passionate about it and you're dedicated and you have morals, it can be easy to change these things in yourself because someone says do this or do that. You might have a mortgage to protect, you might have a family to look after. You need the money to come in because we're all regulated by that fictitious line on the stock market, you know. Alright, so we'll skip on to the last day. So I wrote that speech for the constabulary the night before that took place. And I had a phone call come in from a high-ranking someone telling me that for the next 48 hours there was going to be 600 to 900 police within Wellington, and that he didn't want anyone getting hurt, and basically wished me good luck, and then that was it. So at that time there was different actors that had kind of given in to whatever they'd been offered by the corporate government to disperse people. There's a few names, I'm not going to mention them, but you know who they were, going around saying, oh, it's not safe, we need to go. That thinned everyone's numbers by about 2/3. That last night was super eerie, man. Super eerie. There was no one there, and then it was about 3:30, 4 o'clock I started getting messages from the different outposts that they'd seen media walking around. So, okay, there's media walking around. And then, you know, in the aftermath of everything, I've detailed what took place. So at 05:35, I had eyes on the rear car park, and there was 180 and forming. 05:45, word of media forming. 05:55, heli overhead, came from northeast and encircled. 0600, police constabulary on speakers stating Parliament is closed. 0605, phone call start, rings twice before answering. No negotiation, asked to leave the ground. So what happened was, a negotiations person called Zoe rang me up, and she basically said to me, oh, your time down at Parliament's over now, it's time to go home, this little game is over. Pretty much in those words. And she was very condescending, and I said to her, we're not going anywhere, I want to talk to Andrew Costa. And she just said to me, oh, he doesn't want anything to do with you. I went, oh, okay, well that's nice. Well, on that note, I don't want anything to do with you. And we hung up. 0605, police numbers move in and form lines by Old Parliament and on Molesworth. So what you had take place on that last day was you had a false line on Molesworth, which I detailed constantly the whole time it was taking place. Why do I say that? Is because they had their LRAD set up on the scaffolding on the corner of Molesworth and Atkins Street. So LRADs, generally speaking, you need to set them up rather than move them around. It's not like the open air cooker stuff they had going on us all the time. So you had police that pushed in through the top where Old Parliament is, that library place, and there's an internal wall there, and they filed in and lined up on that wall once I'd cleared all of the obstacles. At the same time, they had at least 3 times the force come down Hill Street, clearing, trying to secure where the toilets were and in that general area of operation so that they had a bigger range of movement to push. It's so simple. It's clear as day. They then reinforced a line on Molesworth, three deep, and then they had their different people behind. It was pretty intense because the amount of medics I saw down there and EMTs on their side. There was a lot of them, and that rang alarm bells too. So they enforced that line, and they just pushed that every few inches because all of you ran out onto the road and decided the wall doesn't matter. What Parliament ground? Well, that doesn't matter. Why would that matter? And I realise you might have been trying to defend different properties on Molesworth, but tactically that's silly. It shouldn't have happened. We could have held it. We only had to hold it for 24 hours. They can't have that many cops in one place for that long. The rest of the country suffers. You know, more burglaries take place. More bad drugs are out there. You know, your cracks in that. They're not. You know, that's the jobs they're meant to be doing, not assaulting the people. So as these lines have formed, everyone seems to be running out onto Molesworth because that seems like the ideal idea. And I'm telling people, don't go out the wall. It ain't good. It ain't safe, and it's gonna collapse the whole thing. You need to go onto that internal wall, and you need to hold that wall. If we can hold that wall, we've got a whole wall running around. Unless they're going to come over the wall from outside of from the road onto the wall, over the wall into Parliament, we're fine. We need people on that top high ground. Yep, keywords high ground, people, high ground, and people thinned out on that wall on outside perimeter, all the way through the gates, all through the gates. I had the gate locked, the main gate. Some of you disagree with me on that. Why? I don't know. Maybe because you lack the tactical in-depth knowledge. But a big opening pass like that is dangerous. If you have an open gate that wide and you can file in 4, you're done. The fact that some of you berated me about that is unfathomable because you obviously don't know what you're talking about tactically. So I had that locked, and there was a woman, beautiful soul. I said to her, you watch this gate does not open, it stays locked unless I come down and ask you to open it, which was not going to happen. So we locked this gate, and I had a big chain the night before, but unbeknownst to me, though I was slightly suspicious, but unbeknownst to me, there was a guy down there that worked for the police, and his name was Sid. Seems like an innocent fella, and he was a genuinely nice guy, unfortunately. I remember him holding up this chain that I had, and I said, yeah, I do have that chain, thank you. Well, that morning when I was scrambling around to find the chain, it had disappeared. I found that interesting. So that was definitely a tamper. So that went missing. So anyway, I strapped this gate up with strops, and I chucked the lock on it. So after this happened, I noticed that everyone was like headless chickens, and they were just doing their own thing, and that's fine. You are welcome to your freedom. I'm not going to infringe on your free will. But I also realised that our situation was dire, and we weren't going to get anywhere now. So I instantly realised what I had to do, and I looked up at that internal wall, and I said, these people listened. So I put my beret on. I went up there with the 2 IC I had on the grounds. And I walked down the line, and from right to left, and I just thanked everybody. I shook their hands, thanked them for their service to their people, and wished them the best. And I thanked every single person that was standing on that line. And it was one of the most memorable moments I had, because that was the spot where they were going to take us, and that's where they took us.
Had I been here, I probably would have filmed that too, but I wasn't there on that day. That's one day I wish I...
Well, do you know who did film it?
Who?
Chantel Baker. But I've seen that live, and she cuts it out.
Can I... What's the reason behind that?
I don't know. I personally, like, I've met her a few times. I don't have anything against her. I thought she was quite lovely. But yeah, I'd met her a few times, and she was quite standoffish towards me. I don't know if it was because she thought I was military, and oh, you know, this guy's ex-military. That's not what we want here. We want peace. Blah blah. I don't know. I don't know what she wanted. I can't get into her head. But I also know that when they put those blocks down on what's that street called? Down by the train station there.
Is Lambton Key, and I think I know the street. Is that where I filmed that one of where those?
You basically, from where that library is.
Yes.
You cross the road and then the train station's there. That road there, when they put those blocks down. She was there, standing on a waste block that was already there.
Bunny Street?
Yeah, Bunny Street.
Okay.
She was standing on that waste block, good to go, all glammed up, cameras and everything. And I'm just thinking to myself, as I'm in the line getting pushed with everybody, how the fuck did you get into such an optimal position for your investigative journalism? I posed the question to the people. Anyway, so I come down off that internal wall after thanking the beautiful people of this nation that held that line, and I have to start sorting myself out now, because we're going to get pushed in a few hours, and I don't know what the hell's going to go on. I've been up for 2 days. I've been up, like I said, I was up for a day. I'd be up for 2 days and 2 nights, and I get about 4 or 5 hours sleep. So this was my second day up. So I'd already been up for a day, a night, yes, and then that was the next day that I was awake and I was meant to be sleeping. But all of this happened and I was under the pump. So I put my ops team on a sleep rotation. As they were doing that, I saw them come off their sleep rotation. I walked around and thanked people because I knew we were going to get pushed out at this point. It was a chaos. I remember running past Wyatt's greenstone. He had this big chunk of greenstone that he had brought into the grounds, and I remember when I first saw that greenstone, the Panamu, and I helped him carry it in. I remember he gave it to me and I carried it in the gate and I placed it on the grounds. And that was also a very memorable moment for me. Very beautiful man, Wyatt you are. And so I remember running through here at one point, and I was just dashing through all these tents, and I remember running past this greenstone. I caught it out the right side of my peripheral, and I just stopped, and then I turned around, I looked at this greenstone, and it was like I wanted to take it. I wanted to get it out of the danger, but I couldn't just grab this chunk of massive rock, this massive Panamu, and just start carrying it around. What was I going to do with it? So I went down, I touched it, I put some water on it, keep it clean. Not physically clean, obviously. And so I just put some water on it, cleaned it, thanked it, wished it the best, and moved on. But I just remember just looking back at that stone, just being like shocked, like, oh my God, you're right there, you're sitting in the hay, what do I do? And then it was just kind of like, you have to move on. So I did. You know, the police were pepper spraying first aiders on our side. Our guys were using milk and were using baby lotion to wash the eyes out. And it was about, I can't give you an exact time that the police came in, but I believe it was around 1 o'clock, right?
In the morning or afternoon?
Afternoon.
Okay, afternoon.
1300.
Yep.
It was about that, 1:30.
I wasn't here that day, but
Well, that's when they started pushing anyway. And at this point, yeah, I was pretty knackered, man. So I saw my guys come off sleep rotation, and I went, fuck it, I'm going to get an hour or two before I bug out of here. There's nothing I can do now. I need to go. So everyone's doing their own thing on the grounds, and I sat down. I hadn't smoked cigarettes for 9 years. I had one cigarette. And there was a guy offered me his tent. So I laid down. Stupidly enough, I took my shoes off. I don't ever do that normally in a situation like this, but for some fucking reason, I guess it was just because of my tiredness, I took my shoes and socks off. I placed them right next to me. I took my phone out. I placed it right next to me. Black case on a black floor. Dumb decision. I took my colours, took out a flag, and I threw them over me. I went to sleep. Well, the next thing I know, the person that owns the tent, his face is in the door going, "They're right on us, they're right on us, they're pushing us." And as he said that, I grabbed my flag, I rotated around on the bed, which was one of those air beds, and I see his face get pushed up against all these people and pushed out. And as that happens, I'm grabbing my shoes and socks, and I'm looking for my phone. My eyes are so fucked, tired, and I can't see my phone. So I just patting around, can't see my phone. So I grab my shoes and socks, I have my flag, and I'm turned around on the bed. And as I go to, and just before I turn around on the bed, there's a dog bar A dog bar is a tool used in building to take nails out of timber for denailing. It was like it's like a tactical dog bar. It was like a aluminium bar used for piercing fabrics. So fabrics or whatever. So I see this bar come through the canvas, and and then two hands just go rip this tent, and as they rip the tent, this fucking line of riot guys is just pushing. I'm still on the fucking airbed, got my shoes and my flag in one hand, and as I go to get up off the airbed, one of these pricks stands on the airbed, and I fall back, because as I'm going up, the bed goes down and I go down with the bed. So I go down slightly onto my ass, and they push past me. As they push past me, they nudge me back. They haven't noticed who I am yet. I'm like, well, that's fucking great. I try to get through one guy's knees, I can't get through. Oh, rewind. At some point before I get pushed through that line on my ass, on my knees, two bottles of baby lotion fly in the air, a purple one and an orange one, and they go down my back. One of them goes right down my back, right down the center of my back, over my belt. And so, right at this point, I've already tried to get through their line once, and I can't get through, and he's pushed me back. I look in behind me, and I can see the arresting line is about 10-15 meters behind me. And might I add, arresting line, you are blasé, and blasé. So I get pushed back, and I'm like, right, I'm not falling into that arresting line. They haven't recognized me either. I'm going to push back through this line. So I move two guys over, and I smash my way through this guy's knees, in between him and his mate. Smash through his knees. One of them goes to grab me by the belt, and it slips on the baby lotion. Divine intervention. So I get through, I'm in bare feet, and I just remember turning around, and as I'm backing up and putting my shoes and socks on, I'm like, how do I get back to get my phone? Because I didn't get my phone, I couldn't see it.
You managed to hold your shoes while doing all this?
Yes, I had my shoes and socks in one hand, and I had my flag in the other hand.
And just clarify, when these two guys are dressed in riot, are they riot cops? Or
Yeah, they were the riot police.
And you got through two guys, barefoot?
Yes. Well, because I'm facing behind them, right?
Yeah.
They know I'm there, but the one that pushed me back the first time knows I'm there. But I've come back, I've assessed the situation, I've seen I ain't going to fall back to that arresting line. They're doing some kind of emu for stuff, right? They're looking for stuff on the ground right to left. But they're not actually paying attention to who's falling behind the line. So then I just move two guys over and slam through their knees. And I get through. Yes, I got a flag in one hand and shoes and socks in the other hand. My fucking big toes are aching because I got no fucking big nails. They fell off for you. And so I get through, and I'm backing up on my shoes and socks and going, how do I probe this? How do I get my phone? Well, I realise that the shoulder to shoulder and that ain't happening. So I just go, I'm out of here. I get extracted, and that was the end of that. Well, like I warned you all when we were down there, if we didn't leave with diplomatic immunity, they're just going to hunt you down. So they've been actively looking for me for a long time.
So what would they particularly want you for versus someone like me? Like, I mean, I wasn't as heavily as involved as you, but why would they want you for?
Well, you know what? Beats me.
To talk to you?
Beats me, to be honest. I didn't hurt anybody. In fact, I kept the peace.
So
I kept people safe when they were willing to hurt people. So I don't know.
So that you feel like you might be a fugitive, yet they're the ones that cause more grief?
Yeah, so I feel I can't really get a job anymore because I'll just turn up when I'm working and be like, oh, we want to have a chat. You know, they sent cops around my old lady's house twice. They sent two cops around the first time. So this was a few months later when I was with the I Roam Hikoi, the individual rights of Aotearoa movement. And I was up north at the time, and I couldn't ring my old lady that much because I knew that they'd bug the phone, because every time I rang her, it would make that noise. And so you need to update your software constabulary. So my old lady's all distressed and telling me how embarrassed and how ashamed she is that these police have turned up, because she doesn't know any of this stuff. You know, she's just like a lot of the other people with their head in the sand trying to get on and pay their way with their blood, sweat and their tears. So old lady, she's distressed. She says, oh, two cops have turned up looking for you. And then I remember ringing her again another time, and she said, oh, there's 2 more cops turned up looking for you. They're ex-military, and they just wanted to know you're okay. They just wanted to know I was okay, guys. They wanted to know I was okay, and they know how hard it is when you get out of the military, and they didn't want me to do anything silly, because there'd been a lot of threats against Jacinda Ardern, and they just wanted to know everyone was okay and everyone was safe, which is obviously bullshit. Because at the time, they most probably knew where I was.